Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F122 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today, for the second time in our Formula 1 career, we are headed to our home Grand Prix here for the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, and we are still atop the board in the R&D with McLaren. However, it doesn't really mean a whole lot as you see how close every team is. Haas is up to third. How about that? We're coming up off of fresh two back-to-back wins in Monaco and then going to Baku. So our first two wins of our F1 career coming in pretty interesting and impressive feat, you know, back-to-back. Now, can we go the three-peat, though, in our home Grand Prix here? As you see myself landing just outside of Montreal now. You see the beautiful view of the circuit in the city of Montreal. We also had a press conference, actually, pre-Grand Prix weekend.
Home Grand Prix weekend for you, Gary, after two back-to-back wins. What's the vibe now compared to last year when you came here?
Not much, to be honest. I feel a bit more pressure, but other than that, I mean, it's business as usual. I'm here to do a job, and now I'm in a car that's capable of doing the job I came to do. So hopefully we can at least get a podium this weekend, but I wouldn't complain about a win either. You hear myself there in the press conference now as we were ready to get on track for some first action this week here on Friday afternoon as we got the home crowd behind our backs now as we are ready to go racing. Now, free practice one gets underway. One of the struggles we had in the last episode in Baku was the straight line speed of the McLaren is still not as good as some of these other top teams like a Red Bull, a Ferrari as well. That's something that's been kind of holding us back a little bit, and that was something I was taking into account here in Montreal as well, because you think about the really long straightaway. The front straightaway is really is a decent length. The back straightaway, I call it as well, that's just before that chicane, and then you have that sector 2 straightaway going all the way down to the hairpin as well after that chicane. There's a very high speed focus here. Race strategy program didn't quite go well. Practice, I was a bit off in pace in practice, and you see we were better than our teammate of Ricardo, who was P9, I was P5, so the timing was there, but the pace I could tell was a bit off. And we fast forward now to Saturday and getting ready to make some laps in Q1. This one was going to get interesting. There is weather on the way on this Saturday afternoon. It was looking like sometime in the second session it was probably going to rain. So in session 2, it's going to be very important to get a lap in as early as possible, as honestly just getting a lap into the top 10 will probably be enough early in the session to advance this, because I don't think we'll be racing at the end of that session. Here we are, P8 currently, as we come through a little bit later though. Last lap in Q1 down to P13. You see I was having some weird graphical like glitch or something. I don't know if it was a graphics setting I did, but you're gonna notice it on screen a few times here and there, and I don't know what was causing it, but nonetheless we come through down the front straightaway, P13, only a 10.5 gain, and we go P10. So we take that now. I mean, it's an easy cruise still, I would think. But no, we barely made it. We barely made it by half a tenth of a second into Q2. What in the world is going on there? You see Norris, Zhou Guanyu, Latifi, Stroll, and Schwartzman all eliminated, so 2 of the 3 Canadians out. But look at the difference now. We fast forward into Q2 a few minutes later, and the cloud cover was here. The rain was on the way, so now it's just about getting a lap in as quickly as possible and hoping it's a top 10 lap, of course. And I found some pace out of nowhere in Q2. I set it purple sector 1, purple sector 2, but they would turn to green instead of purple, but it still was very good pace. Now, Tsunoda, he's going to be the first one in front of me to cross the line, but we're going to cross the line, go quicker. That's putting me P1, Ricardo P3. Unfortunately, it would be enough because we go back into the garage and look at this. The rain was on the way and it was coming in. You can see the views there from the distance, and then sure enough, the track would get covered in some light rain at the time. So that would move us through in P4, Ricardo P9. And look at this. Hamilton, Russell, and Leclerc, 3 huge names, and Sainz as well, all out. Both Ferraris and both Mercedes did not get a good enough of a first lap, and obviously they couldn't go again because of the wet conditions, so they are out, unfortunately, in Q2, which is a huge shock. Lewis Hamilton's had a terrible season so far, and it's going to continue. This is my laps late in Q3 now, my first laps on the intermediate tires, and it started out as wet tire conditions, which is why I didn't go out, because I knew the weather was going to get better. So we put on these inters, and we do briefly go fastest, but everybody else behind me would go faster, and I would literally drop to 10th place. Here we are, though, improving now, nearly half a second improvement. It would drop down, but then it would go back up, and then here we see purple sector 1, and as we come through the second sector, I kind of gave up a little bit of time, but then we gained it back again, got into the barrier a little bit. Don't think I damaged the front wing, but 6 tenths, now 7 tenths into the hairpin, and you can see now down into 10th place. It wasn't a great lap, and I really gave up a lot of time in Sector 2. That's in that hairpin as well. The hairpin in Sector 2 was where I gave up a lot of time on this lap, and therefore we're not going to get the greatest effort there, and I actually hit the wall on the exit of the final chicane in the Wall of Champions, so we crossed the line. P9 is all we are able to do. Our teammate of Daniel Ricciardo on pole. How about that? Ricciardo pole, Perez, Verstappen, Schumacher, Tsunoda, Alonso, Ocon, Pierre Gasly, and then myself and Kevin Magnussen round off this top 10. It's going to be a sunny Grand Prix on Sunday, so no issues for weather there. And let's head to the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix.
It's time once again then to go racing here in Montreal, the second largest French-speaking city in the world, and home since 1978 to the Canadian Grand Prix. With top speeds of around 210 miles per hour heading into the overtaking opportunity of turn 13, the 2.7 miles of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve are some of the quickest on the Formula One calendar. There are 14 corners in total, with 60% of the lap taken at full throttle, and average speeds clock in at about 130 miles per hour. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Daniel Ricciardo has a clear view ahead of him from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda, and Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Gasly, Golden Boy, and Kevin Magnussen, Albon, Sainz, George Russell, and Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, Nicholas Latifi, and Lance Stroll, Schwartzman, and Guan Yu Zhou. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway.
Ready to go racing then here. You see mediums to hards. I took a quick look at what other drivers are doing. You see Perez on softs, Gasly on softs, the two Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc on hards, but some softs at the bottom of the grid as well. But nonetheless, I think our strategy, let's see what we can pull off here.
Right then, the formation lap is underway here in Montreal, a circuit where the cars take a physical battering and the pit and paddock facilities are cramped. But the atmosphere, as always, is great, and the race ahead has the potential to be a good one. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can, and they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, and failing that, within the points.
No pressure today, mate. I know it's your home GP, but just do you out there.
Yes, sir. Hopefully we have a little bit more pace here in the Grand Prix. It was a rough qualifying effort, guys, but I think we still have something capable of a top 5 at least, so let's have fun. You hear myself on the radio to the team. We are ready to go lights out here and racing in Canada, as it's going to be our teammate of Daniel Ricciardo kind of stealing our thunder as of late there, as we have been very, very strong with the 2 back-to-back wins. Can Ricciardo make it a 3-peat for McLaren? At least we're about to find out, because it's lights out. We are underway. Now we watch out immediately for Perez on those soft tires, but he's got his teammate of Verstappen up his inside. Not a great start for Perez on those softs. He's 3 wide now, compromised by the Haas, as well as you got the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda up there, and only a few cars back is his teammate of Pierre Gasly, and Tsunoda has really been on it so far this season. Very impressive runs from him now, as he is really making a case maybe to even get a Red Bull ride in the future in season, number 3 potentially, so stay tuned on that now. As you can see in the background, a big lunge there. I believe that is that Carlos Sainz? I believe, yes it is. It looks like on the outside actually of myself here, as I find myself compromised. It wasn't a great start for myself in this Grand Prix, and I struggled for grip a little bit off the grid start, so down towards turn 1, and then through there we were able to kind of settle in, and now it's just all about getting these tires warmed up. You see Hamilton and Russell just behind as well. Watch out for them. There's a huge send, the Giga send right there. Who in the world? Is that Lando Norris? I believe, yes it was Lando Norris, as you see his teammate of Lance Stroll a little bit further back, but an absolute massive send, and it worked for Lando. He gained the track position, and he didn't get any damage out of it, but it's all Ricciardo leading over Verstappen on the exit of that final chicane here now as I find myself coming through this final chicane, settling in P10. So you know what, we gained nothing on that opening start. We lost 1 spot overall after qualifying in P9, but now these mediums, it wouldn't take long for them to start warming up, and we would quickly get the DRS enabled and actually yellow flag here in Sector 2. The 2 Alfa Romeos got together in the background, had a bit of a moment now, side by side in front of us. Gasly had a lockup. Magnussen goes through. And here goes Ocon now to the left side as the 2 Frenchmen are going to battle side by side into the hairpin. Gasly kind of peeks the nose of the inside of Magnussen. Gasly does have those soft tires. He's got more grip, more speed right now, and they're not falling off quite yet, but they're still drag racing into the final chicane. These two, I mean, not great friends overall, and there goes Gasly around to spin in the final chicane. A huge crash there. Hamilton, Russell, Sainz, Albon as well. It's the big one, a NASCAR-style crash from a Talladega. All of a sudden strikes here in Montreal. The safety car out immediately, as you could imagine, but a huge crash, maybe the biggest one I've had in a long time in an F1 game. Look at this on board with Gasly. I mean, he just choked. Simple as that. A huge error there. Nothing Ocon really did wrong. And you can see, I mean, Sainz not a whole lot of time to react. And that's 2 consecutive Canadian Grand Prix DNFs for Carlos Sainz. He's got a bad history here, but look at all these cars piling in. Hamilton, Russell, they're still in. Perez on the softs pits. A free pit stop for him. That's going to be big for the long run in this Grand Prix. But Lewis Hamilton is the one that I was kind of highlighting here. What a terrible start to the season for Hamilton. And just when you thought it couldn't get much worse, that happens. I mean, at least he's still in the Grand Prix, while Sainz, you know, Albon, Gasly, they are all out. We would get back to racing here. Coming to lap 7, so we are finding ourselves now in P7 due to, while passing the wrecking AlphaTauri of Gasly, and as well we would get past Perez and actually Esteban Ocon as well. In that whole process, we were able to fortunately overtake after that whole mess, and here we are finding ourselves in P7, being a little bit patient on this restart now, just kind of settling in. Our teammate of Daniel Ricciardo still in control of this race, and honestly a bit surprising that he's been able to hold back Max Verstappen. But Yuki Tsunoda currently up there in 3rd place now as we wait for things to cycle out here. DRS enabled again on lap 9, so finally able to calm down and get back into the zone, get back into a rhythm here after that big crash. We almost got ourselves taken out in that accident. I mean, if I was another lane to the right or something, if I just maybe made a mistake, had a slip up in that final chicane, who knows? But we were not, you know, far away from being taken out in that accident. Magnussen, Mark comes over the radio, tells me that he's slowing down due to some kind of problem, so I would be patient with this. I wouldn't force any issues. In the front straightaway was the opportunity that I needed to be able to go and make the pass on Magnussen here. He is going to fight it though. Down into turn 1, actually he's going to just about run wide. He might have made a little bit of contact with me there, but we do complete the pass now. So another position gained up into P6 now, passing the Haas, our former car that we drove last season. Haas, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, up to 3rd place in the R&D chart. Didn't see that coming. They are strong. They got Schumacher up in the top 5, Magnussen not far behind in P7. It is very impressive what that team has been able to do in the little time they've had this season. If you look at the R&D chart, they have had more gains than anybody this season. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to bring, you know, as we close in on the summer break and what's going to happen after that now as we come through to lap 15. And now we're closing in on Fernando Alonso, but we were also pitting at the end of lap 15. Our pit window had open, actually slid the rear tires even, trying to get this car slowed down as we head into our pit box. Verstappen had also pitted, so Ricciardo going to likely come in at the end of this next lap right here, but we actually beat out Alonso in the pit, so we gained a spot right there. Another overtake, another position in our favor now, as you can see. Yuki Tsunoda exiting just in front of us. So 20 laps to go, and there was another problem kind of underlying and developing kind of under the behind the scenes and quietly that I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to quite yet, but you're going to notice it here momentarily. So fuel. I had over 3 laps of fuel, extra laps of fuel to start this Grand Prix. I would quickly realize I was losing about 0.10 of that fuel per lap. I was losing about 0.10 laps of fuel per lap. So that was not good, because right now you're going to see eventually when I look at it now is I nearly run myself into the wall of champions again, getting more positions due to drivers cycling out but at the current rate that I was burning fuel, I was going to be running out of fuel on the last lap of the Grand Prix. Now, as you can see myself before focusing on that, going for an overtake here with the DRS on Yuka Tsunoda, now going around the left side through the chicane. We make it work right there. Not a whole lot of room to make it work, but we do make it work. So another position gained. And here we are finding ourselves in P8 with still a few drivers needing to pit, like Zhou Guanyu, just in front of us there in that Alfa Romeo. Schumacher not too far ahead either, 1.9 seconds, 2 seconds a gap. But here we are passing Zhou, Leclerc, and Russell also into the pits there, all on different strategies after the issues earlier in the Grand Prix. Perez is exiting. Unfortunately, Perez in front of me there. He had gotten up to the back of me when I pitted, and now he's able to do the overcut. And Ricciardo out by about a little over a second ahead of Verstappen. Look at this. So 1.4 extra laps of fuel, and we have 14 laps to go. Now, to really get technical, I was burning a little bit more than 0.10 per lap, which meant I was going to run out probably on the final lap of this Grand Prix. Yellow flag in front of us. Perez, he's slow right there. What in the world happened there? Here it is. I mean, oh my goodness. That's a massive send into the wall of champions, and he tears the front wing apart, and that means he was going to have to pit at the end of the lap. So he pits, and look at the barrier there. It's an absolute mess, but a huge moment there. That puts me up in a P4, but I now couldn't push because 1.1 laps of fuel with 11 laps to go. Now down to 0.78 on lap 28. I am going to run out of fuel in the last lap unless we get a miracle safety car. And I'm trying my best to desperately save fuel. You see me now, watch this. If you look at the throttle and braking input, I'm letting off completely of everything, just letting it coast as much as I can to try and save as much fuel as I can. Then I start short shifting. That was my next measure. Short shifting would be the next thing I would try on top of cruising, because now 0.57 extra laps. So we have 6 to go, and we have less than 6 laps of fuel. We are going to run out of fuel here unless we get a miracle safety car at this point now as we head down towards the chicane. And, well, there it is. The safety car comes out, and now everything I just talked about is gone out the window, and it was Perez again who did the same thing, and holy choke. I mean, the meltdown of Perez's lifetime all of a sudden. That brings up the safety car and puts us in P4. And now, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Schumacher, myself, Tsunoda, the top 5. And fortunately, we will now have plenty of fuel to end this race. We're not going to have any fuel concerns anymore. We're going to be just fine. So safety car is coming in at the end of lap 33. So that's going to give us 2 laps of racing. Not a lot of time to make things happen, but we haven't had the best pace in this car today. The fact that we're in 4th, honestly, was a bit of a surprise to me. And we maybe could get a podium for the 3rd time in a row as well. That would be our 4th career podium overall, as we did have one with Haas last season. Here we go. Restart's underway. 2 laps to go. Verstappen in 2nd. Myself and Schumacher side by side for 3rd place. Former teammate there, not going to make it easy on me. We've had our, battles before, but we do come out on top of this one. Up into 3rd place, Ricciardo trying to go 3-peat for McLaren. We won in Monaco and Baku, and now he's trying to go for that 3rd consecutive race himself and get it in Canada. Yellow flags in the background. It's Esteban Ocon actually had a mechanical failure. He's going to be out of the Grand Prix Alpine's continuous season of speed, but issues with reliability and bad luck continue now as we approach the final lap. Verstappen, unfortunately, I didn't quite have enough for him there, dealing with some oversteer right there as we head down towards that hairpin for the final time, and it's all Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo, what a Grand Prix weekend. I mean, we have got 2 Grand Prix wins so far this season, but we didn't do it in the fashion that Ricciardo did it. In Baku, we made a last lap pass, and we got a very lucky safety car to give us that victory. Monaco, we used the overcut strategy, and we led about the last, 15, 20 laps or whatever it was of the Grand Prix. This time, though, Ricciardo qualifies pole, leads from start to finish, challenged by Verstappen the whole way, but it's not enough. Ricciardo wins with McLaren in Canada. We cross the line, though, and go P3, so a podium in my home Grand Prix is something I will absolutely take here in my 2nd attempt. I would love to win my home Grand Prix, but it will have to wait a little bit longer. And going into, well, Season 3 driver of the day, Charles Leclerc. Let's head to the podium with myself and my teammate on the podium, as well as Max Verstappen.
Truly magnificent drive and a great performance from the entire team to secure victory here in Canada. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
We are bringing the fight not only to the Drivers' Championship, but to the Constructors' Championship as well. If I'm Red Bull, I'm a little bit concerned right now. If I'm Max Verstappen, same situation. Now, Verstappen does gain points over second place as Leclerc, well, had his issues here today. Max Verstappen's had his own rough string of races recently. Well, think back to Miami when he wrecked himself out and used me in the process. As you see the Australian flag back on the top step of the podium, it's been a long time. It's been since, 2021 at Monza since Ricciardo has been able to go to that top step of the podium. Just now noticing it says 81 on the back of his fire suit. I'm not sure what that's about. I guess it's just to do with the mod. But nonetheless, Ricciardo, once again, Grand Prix winner in Formula 1, doing what he couldn't do, and that was having success with McLaren as they went past the 2021 season. But both McLarens on the podium as well. We're not taking off from the runway this time because I still have obligations due to this, us being in Canada. Actually, I have to go back to Toronto and do some stuff with some sponsors and whatnot. So we're staying in Canada for a while. Ricciardo up to 8th, but Verstappen holds the lead. We're at P6 in the standings and in the constructor standings as well. That's another thing to take a look at here. And we are currently up to 3rd place, 98 points back, Ferrari 45 back. And now we'll see what we can do in the next episode. Thank you all for taking the time for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.